So using that initial information we obtained from our initial walkthrough, we're going to temporarily install APs on a stick, or you're going to wheel around your AP on a stick, depending on how you have this set up. If you got to check for roaming, you need multiple APs on a stick. Use the antenna type that you were required to. Dipole, directional, omnidirectional antennas. Other considerations would be the dBi of the antenna. Make sure the dBi of the antenna is matching the dBi you are going to deploy. Okay? Place the AP on a stick in the location at the highest point near the ceiling, where you would install the AP usually. Okay? You want to make sure it is the same. Now, when we use the facility information in our walkthrough, this determines the starting point. The typical place we're going to start is the corners of rooms or corners of the buildings, our meeting rooms, elevators, because this is a place where we have problems, stairwells, going to be a place where we have problems, and any other locations in your environment that is a good starting point. And then we are going to actively do our survey. Now, there are two main ways to set up for an active survey. The first is the basic service set ID method. Now, this method locks a client onto an AP, one AP's radio MAC address, and prevents the client from roaming. So I'm not going to roam around. I'm using the basic service set identifier. I am locked into an AP, and I am using it to measure signal strength in certain distances from that AP. This is often used in pre-deployment scenarios. So I'm actually measuring how far signal's moving, things like that. This is before we've deployed in most cases. There is the SSID method. Now, this is used in post-deployment methods most of the time. And this is to make sure that our survey client can associate with an SSID and roam without significantly seeing a change in service. So this is to check our coverage between cells. Excuse my Venn diagram, but this is to check this area in here to see if we can roam between cells. Service set ID testing is just to test the limits of a single AP. So different distances, signal strength, and data rates. All right. Now, after determining the locations, we're going to stick the APs on a stick and mounting them to those locations. We're going to start at our starting point, and then we're going to determine the method of use and start performing the active site survey. One thing I would like you to do when you are doing this, make sure that your client is as close to the adapter type that is going to be used in the environment. So your laptop you're using to test has to be very, very similar to the laptops that are going to be used in production or the adapters that are going to be used in production. If they are significantly off, if your laptop has a significantly better antenna than what's going to be deployed, it doesn't matter what the site survey says because they're not going to see the same performance. So try to use, as close as you can, the same adapter type. We're going to load and calibrate the floor map or layout as we do this. So why are we doing this? Because we need to verify scale. If we see that there's a difference in scale, what's going to happen is that's going to be a huge impact on our heat map for our signal. So we have to make sure the scale is correct for our software floor plan versus real life floor plan. Make sure to use the appropriate wireless LAN channels. And we need to make sure we walk slowly through our active survey. So our starting point, we're going to walk slowly through the environment to ensure we see all of those signals on the list. We are going to select SSIDs used by APs on a stick. Those are the SSIDs we're going to use. This is because we could see bleed through from other areas. So we only want to check the SSIDs for our APs on a stick. Complete a signal propagation assessment. So what's our signal strength? The ranges of the AP on the stick. So here we were using SSID. Here we're going to use VSSID to test each AP's distance. How far is that signal being pushed for that basic service set ID for that AP on a stick? This allows us to understand the minimal signal strengths needed for the services we require. Why did I say minimal service strength? Because when we start pushing past minimal signal strength, we start bleeding through walls, don't we? This is wireless. Our wall is not going to stop the signal by itself. So we have to use signal strength to keep it in the areas we want. Minor amounts of bleed through are sometimes necessary, but you don't want to project way past your walls. And you don't want people projecting way into your walls either. Always note the distance of signal travel. And last but not least, a signal bleeds significantly through walls on propagation assessments means you failed the propagation assessment. Something happened. It was wrong. Remember how I said we're going to start at a starting point and walk through? Have those walking paths pre-planned, folks. Verify our survey path, have it pre-planned, and have pre-planned data points. Pre-plan your data points to meet what? User areas. We defined user areas in the information gathering phase. This is when that comes into fruition. When we're doing our active site survey and walking around, we are going to collect at those points now, data points. Now, once I have all this planned out, all this done, I'm going to do this, and this, and this. I'm going to do it here, and here. I'm going to do a service set ID here, basic service set ID here. I'm going to measure this AP on a stick and that AP on a stick. Once I have it all planned out, I'm going to execute the survey. Get it done. Understand your area. Have a plan before you go in. If you don't have a plan, it's going to be a zoo. Have it laid out. Make a list if you need to, but definitely have a plan.